Gary Vee says home ownership is bullshit. I was reading this article on Housing Wire when the author, Jason, reached out to me about a separate opportunity. I was following the story already, but when that happened, it just confirmed that we had to talk about it on today's show. So here we go. And also, guys, read Jason's article. He covers it great, and he is really super nice. I'm going to go against the grain a little bit here and challenge Gary Vee's thoughts on this. So let's dive in.
Let me give you something I'm hot on right now. I do not think the American dream should be buying a home anymore. I think it's full of
Tell me more of that.
It's
Yeah.
It's a bad use of upfront capital, and it ties you up.
Correct.
And it's just not smart.
It's not going to appreciate. Not the way you want it
what is it for? Like, I'm pissed that I own a home.
Yeah.
I would literally rent in perpetuity now. And I will. Like, I've decided, like, I will never buy another new home.
Okay, first, I love Gary Vee, but I agree with about 70% of what he says. Second, I honestly think this is irresponsible for him to say. You'll never see this because I'm a nobody in Puyallup, Washington, but I do think he was irresponsible with his influence in that moment. Now, technically, he was 1% right. Let me explain. Gary Vee made a common mistake that I see top influencers, athletes, and business leaders often make. He spoke as if every one of his listeners and followers live in his little FU money New York City lifestyle, which I'm sorry, only a fraction of 1% do. So sure, his thoughts may have been right for the folks in the 1%, but we could even challenge that thought. Most of his peers have built their wealth through residential and commercial real estate. So one could argue that that isn't even true for the 1%. But let's focus on the 99 for a second. Gary, again, you are speaking as if the average American thinks about buying a Ferrari or a house.
But here's the thing, real quick. Let me tell you the difference between a Lambo and owning your own home. I'm looking at some people here. We're all looking at each other, right? You just don't know if you own the home or not. Like, you don't have to know.
Yeah.
Like, I know you're driving a fucking Lambo. I see it. Yeah. But you live in a home. I actually have no fucking clue how much mortgage you have on that home. Do you rent it? Right? I'm telling you this thing. And by the way, this is my thesis to why it will fall.
First, I promise you the 99% have never had to think about, should I buy a Ferrari or a house? I guess that's a tough one. Second, he goes on to likening a house to fashion, like a pair of nice shoes or a watch, or again, driving a Ferrari. Gary, the 99% don't buy a house to floss or to show their friends that they're a baller. The 99% buy a home to raise their family, a home near their kids' school and near their 9 to 5 that they make $75,000 a year at. They scrape up enough money to pay bills and hopefully provide a home to do life in. And oh, by the way, fast forward 5 years later, it is by far their best investment, representing oftentimes the only real wealth they have generated at that point in their life. He then goes on to explain that you can actually afford to rent more of a home if you don't buy.
And if you actually play it out, it means people are gonna live in much better homes. Because if you're not using all that upfront cash and you're just renting, you can go higher up and be in a fancier place. It's why do you need to own a home?
You don't.
To leave it to your kids? They can rent too. Oh, this is some up amazing for me. Yeah. I think the whole thing is gonna go.
I mean, again, housing expense is housing expense, guys. So let me get this straight. Because I choose to rent, my paycheck magically gets bigger and I can afford a bigger and better home? That's some pretty cool math right there. And then he really buries himself and says the whole thing, meaning our industry, is going to go. So, America's largest industry by far is going to go? And America's #1 wealth generator is going to go? I'm not so sure about that. Look, this will never get to him, but I would be happy to go toe-to-toe with him on this. And hey, Gary Vee is infinitely more successful than I will ever be, but I'm sorry, he is flat out wrong on this. This was irresponsible for him to say this, and my hope is that we can get to that young hustler that makes $50,000 a year that is about to set his life in motion and down the wrong path based off his words, and explain to this young guy that, hey, there are some real benefits of home ownership. And also let him know, hey, if you hit it big like Gary Vee and you become a fraction of the 1%, then congrats. And then, and only then, can you contemplate buying a Ferrari or a house. Again, if I haven't pissed him off enough, I will wrap this up in a nice, neat little bow. Gary Vee fell victim to what I see other CEOs and 1%ers fall victim to. The dangers of a yes man. These guys walk around and surround themselves with yes men that only validate and never challenge them. This is a dangerous place to be because you walk around with unrefined thoughts and ideas and strategies. We all need to welcome opposing views and ideas. They are good for everyone, especially the yes man. CEOs and other 1%ers would be smart to have a few folks on their staff that would have the ability to challenge them consistently. I don't know, just my 2 cents. Most of us don't live in your world, Gary. Good for you for achieving that, but the 99% don't live in that world, and I think we make up the majority of your audience. You are still a baller and you have badass contrarian ideas, but this one was unrefined and unchallenged. But who am I? I'm just a dude in Puyallup. What do you guys think? Comment down below and then go share this and try to get to that young hustler that is about to make a really bad decision. See you guys next week.